Hi guys, Dean here, back again for another video. This one's going to be a bit different. This is purely Iron Maiden related. I think I mentioned in the previous video that, as you guys know from the videos I've been doing anyway, it's very rare that I talk about or show any new Iron Maiden records. I've been getting into sort of different genres of music, especially I started looking at jazz, just sort of filling in gaps from sort of the old 80s, 90s bands that I used to listen to. And obviously picking up any new music as well along the way. And then sort of as I've been going on eBay and record fairs and things, I noticed that a lot of the stuff that I still didn't have in my Iron Maiden collection specifically, I was trying to be completist about the UK side of things. There was a few bits and bobs there that I didn't have, and the prices are just really going through the roof on eBay. And you don't really see them out in the wild any longer, so pretty much made a conscious decision to actually go out and be quite aggressive and actually filling in those gaps. So really there were two albums that were pretty much grails for me, although not necessarily albums that I particularly wanted, but they were just the holes in the collection. So anyway, so that's what today's video is all about. So I do apologise for any Iron Maiden, non-Iron Maiden fans out there. This is just going to be purely Iron Maiden centric. So anyway, here we go. So the first one, obviously when Bruce Dickinson left in '92 after Fear of the Dark album, Blaze Bayley came in for 2 albums basically before Bruce came back on Brave New World. And for some reason those 2 albums, I think possibly because the 2 albums as well were the last 2 that were done purely on vinyl, no picture discs, seemed to command quite a high price. And if you can see them, obviously I would imagine because of the nature of the band and popularity, I suppose, after Bruce left, it did have a big impact. I'm not sure whether the band realised how much of an impact that would have had. But yeah, so I suppose it's just, maybe the pressing numbers were smaller than previous albums, like Fear of the Dark. And there's a lot of Fear of the Dark around, and that sort of tends to go for around the 50-60 mark still, so in good condition. So, but X Factor and Virtual Exile, Virtual 11 certainly go for a lot more. So, so anyway, Virtual Exile, that was the more affordable one of the 2, so that's the one I've really sort of honed in on and tried to pick one up for a decent price. And I managed to get one, so this is it. So Maiden fans probably have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this album. It's definitely not the best by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, the package is nice. Let's go for that first of all. The artwork, I think, was the first time they'd used an image of Eddie that hadn't been drawn. It didn't go down too well either. I don't think many people particularly liked the idea. And I think for a lot of the younger fans as well, it was a bit too graphic. I think cartoon violence, I suppose, is okay, but when it comes to something like that, it's maybe not acceptable. This one came with poster, and is it a poster or is it? Yes, poster. Just thinking for a minute, it was a lyric sheet. So it came with a poster, and it was on. Bring the thing out. Clear vinyl. So it's a double album on clear vinyl. That one's got a bit of a speck of black vinyl in it. The other one was fine. Obviously both been cleaned up and stuff anyway. As far as the album itself goes, they had 2 singles, I think. Man on the Edge was a single anyway, definitely. Maybe it was just the one single. I seem to think they had 2 singles, but actually they probably didn't. I'll come to that in a second. But yeah, the album itself was quite dark and brooding and not really a typical Iron Maiden. I mean, some people might think Iron Maiden are quite dark band, but a lot of the songs are quite upbeat, and certainly the earlier years and stuff anyway, and obviously they've recently gone more progressive. So but yeah, I just don't know, the writing on this, you can tell straight away, and you can tell on the Virtual 11 album as well, that the loss of Adrian Smith, which was before Fear of the Dark in a way as well, but and Bruce Dickinson really hit home. you know, the writing definitely suffered on those two albums without them. I mean, you just need to listen to Brave New World when those two guys came back into the band. The songs were just so much better. So yeah, Virtual Exei. It's been a hole in the collection for a while. Glad to have it in the collection. Probably not something I'm going to particularly listen to. I mean, over the years I haven't listened to either of those two albums. But I just thought, let's get it now before prices really do go through the roof. Anyway, I mean, they are. I mean, I was chatting to a guy on one of the record fairs the other day, and he said Iron Maiden stuff is just going crazy at the minute, and I'm not sure why it is. I think there's a big influx of people outside of the UK and the US that are starting to buy vinyl. Maybe as a, you know, flipping exercise, I don't know, but yeah, it seems to be crazy prices. But I'm happy with the price paid for this in the grand scheme of things. I don't think I would have paid any more for it than what I did, so yeah, good one to have. So that's X Factor. As I said, not a great Iron Maiden album by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's probably my least favourite of all albums. It's basically, it's for me, it's the worst album they've done. And a lot of people out there like it, but yeah, for me, that's me. Along the same time, I think this came out. This was sort of like the second single from the album, but wasn't. Came out the year after the album, I think. This is Virus. Now this one is a bit of a strange one. This is also the first time, bar the Soundhouse tapes, they've released a single which wasn't on the album. Bar, actually, Twilight Zone as well. Actually, I think there's copies of Twilight Zone, copies of Killers that don't have Twilight Zone on. So, I mean, that's a... But this definitely didn't appear on an album anywhere. It's a poster bag, picture label on there. Again, I've not listened to the vinyl, but I listened to the single a few years back. And again, it's not, you know, certainly wasn't missed from the album. Don't think it particularly made it any better if it was on there. But again, it's one of those. It's the 12-inch that isn't particularly that common, so it's quite rare to get hold of. So again, thought I'd pick it up at the time while it was going for a reasonable price on the sellers. Which leads me to my final disc. Now this is really going crazy. I've been watching this for a while now, and again, just had to pop on it. Otherwise, I'm just going to be here paying ridiculous amounts of money. This one is Virtual Exei, Virtual 11. Now this one, again, you know, you can't complain about the package. Not so sure about the artwork or the whole football theme of things, but you know, it is what it is. Comes in two picture inner sleeves, one with all the lyrics on, and a nice one with some images of the band, and Eddie at the bottom. This was sort of taken around the Ed Hunter time when they actually produced a game for the PC and so forth, Ed Hunter, but again, custom labels on there. It was a double release on black vinyl, as you can see, which made a much better package, I think, for me, rather than the clear vinyl. Now this one had a few, two singles. Yeah, had Future Real, which actually is a really good upbeat song. I mean, this album is more, I'd say it's more traditional Iron Maiden that most people would think of. You know, Future starts off with a really upbeat, up-tempo track. The Angel and the Gambler, which was the second single, just bores me to tears, to be honest. I mean, it just literally is a repeat of The Angel and the Gambler, The Angel and the Gambler, over and over again. It just doesn't seem to go anywhere. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the songs off this album and off X Factor, I don't think any of them are in the live set any longer. Klansman, which is probably the highlight of this album for me, was done, I think, on the Ed Hunter tour, which was after Bruce joined the band, sort of after this album, once Blaze Bayley had been given the boot. and before Brave New World was actually recorded. Did a bit of a sort of comeback, Welcome Back Bruce type tour. So that was played along with, I think, Future Real as well, was done live. But I think it was only pretty much those two. Can't remember any of the other tracks of either of the albums that were actually played live, and neither of those two actually played any longer, so that shows you possibly the strength of the songs that are on those two albums. But again, it's yeah, sadly it's just one of those that, you know, has suffered maybe with the limited number of pressings that were done. But yeah, so popped on it, I've got it, it's filled the gap. But yeah, to anybody that hasn't got this out there, beware. It's worthwhile checking on Discogs. There are a lot of fake copies. I wouldn't say bootlegs, because bootleg tends to mean something different these days. And the X Factor as well. As far as I'm aware, X Factor fakes are only on different coloured vinyl. So you've got the clear, which is the only, if you find it clear, I think it's original. And again, the same with this. I think, you know, there are some coloured copies, but there are also some black copies, but the matrix numbers are different. So the thing is, check the matrix numbers with Discogs, make sure you're getting the right deal, because I mean, this I've seen go for 300 plus on eBay. That's how crazy things are getting. I didn't pay anywhere near that though, which is good. Paid plenty, and this is the most expensive album in my collection now. The most I've paid for any single album by a long shot. So yeah, I mean, was it worth it? It was worth it for me, because I need to complete the UK pressing albums. So yeah, you know, it's it's a crazy hobby that we guys have got. You know, as I can see, as I showed you guys before, top row is all pretty much Iron Maiden stuff. There's some Iron Maiden related things in there, so like Bruce Dickinson solo stuff, Adrian Smith project, some early new wave British heavy metal stuff that Yannick Gers was in and so forth, and Nicky McBrain, you know, the earlier bands and stuff. So you know, that is the tip of the iceberg. Got a couple of Japanese sort of issues stuff up there, which is the next ocean I'm dipping my toe into. The UK side of things are pretty much done and dusted now, bar a few sort of alternate pressings and things, but even those I think are pretty much nailed down now. So 7 inches, different story. There's quite a lot of 7 inches, especially from the earlier years, that I don't have at the moment. But yeah, I mean, 12-inch and LPs, they were the first port call really to make sure I've got everything down. But yeah, and the Japanese pressing stuff is fantastic. I love the Obi strips, and they really go the extra effort. I need to show the Somewhere in Time, because the packaging on that is great, and the, you know, the extra bits and bobs that you get over the standard UK pressing was, you know, just crazy. And it's the same, I think, pretty much for the majority of the albums as well. Pretty much the first 8 albums that they did in Japan, been, you know, really given some nice treatment, along with other, obviously, the singles and stuff at the time. Anyway, so that's enough wittering for me. So again, great if you're an Iron Maiden fan, maybe not so great if you're not. Hopefully it will give you a bit of an insight into how crazy us Maiden fans are, if you're not and you've managed to wade through this so far. You know, it's just seems to be a crazy market out there, and just generally vinyl records. You know, vinyl is going through the roof at the moment. I know when I was looking, restarting my collection a couple of years ago, I was buying job lots. You know, I was getting maybe 50-60 records for around the sort of equivalent market, you know, maybe 50-60 pounds. And in there, you know, I was finding Jethro Tulls, I was finding your Genesis, Yes's Pink Floyd's, all that sort of stuff. You know, really good solid rock collections. That same collection these days pretty much goes for around the £300 to £400 mark. It's like, I just don't know, people obviously can't be flipping them to make money, because you can't make money on that sort of pricing. But anyway, it is what it is, and there you go. Anyway, that's enough for me. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.